Butch Walker here. Premier Guitar has asked me to talk about a riff that inspired or influenced me, and that riff right there for sure as hell did. That's a riff by a group called the James Gang. Singer and guitar player, a little known guy named Joe Walsh at the time, of Eagles fame and solo artist fame as well. And that's a song called Funk 49. And I just remember when I heard that for the first time come on the radio station in Georgia when I was growing up, a little kid in a little small town, and just loving all things rock and roll. And I'd listen to this radio station called 96 Rock all the time. And they played all that cool shit. And so when they played that song, it would just make me jump out of my seat. I loved it so much. And I was an aspiring guitarist, and I thought, that is the coolest sounding riff ever. And I need to learn how to play that because I'm going to be probably cooler if I can learn it. And it's just, to me, it's become one of those things. I've carried it with me all the way till now in modern times. When I go into a music store or sound check or anything, we call it a sound check riff or a guitar store check riff, where like you go in and you pick up a guitar off the wall and plug it into an amp to try it out. And first thing you do is you play a go-to riff. And that's one of those songs that's pretty much a go-to riff, I think, because it's, if you can sound good, if your amp and guitar can sound good playing that riff, then it's probably a good guitar and amp. And it's such a cool, loose, I love how loose he played. And, you know, it just had so much attitude and fire, kind of almost the way that I love Jimmy Page in that same respect, where, you know, a lot of his riffs were just, they weren't executed technically precise, and I didn't really care about that. I loved the sloppiness, and it almost sounded like it was on the edge of collapse at all times. And that riff in particular from Funk 49 does that, has that thing. And it's funky, as the name implies, as well as just gives your right hand a workout, and it's just super fun to play. And I think when I learned it, one of the cool things that happened was later in life, this was only about a year ago, Joe Walsh was being honored at this gala event at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. And they asked me to come play, and I played with, it was Nathan East on bass and Sean Pelton on drums, and man, who else was it? There was it was a crazy lineup. It was Michael McDonald. Oh man, it was Vince Gill. It was cool, and we all got up and we sang and played Joe Walsh songs. And I played that song. I opened by playing and singing that song with Joe Walsh sitting 5 feet in front of me, and it kind of scared me a little bit. But he stood up and gave a standing ovation after I finished it, and I felt like, oh, I could die happy. And he comes up on stage and he puts his arms on my shoulder and he says, "You did real good up there, kid." He said, "That couldn't have been easy with playing that shit with me standing right there in front of you." And I remember, yeah, whew, that was, but it was a bucket list moment because I got to play my favorite guitar riff of all time, my sound check riff, my guitar store riff, right in front of the guy who fucking created it. And it was really cool. So I'd have to say that that riff inspired me.